starting biogeography. Biogeography. Okay, the geography of life. Okay, in biogeography we will be discussing about all the aspects that supports life on the earth. The first aspect is soil, and already the climatic things were discussed, so you will be including some certain aspects of climate when you are discussing soil. Then we'll go with distribution of soils in India and in the world. In the world means it is, you know, in a simpler manner we'll discuss, in a generalized manner, and we'll talk about different world distribution of different plant species and wildlife. There are certain zones wherein you will find a similar kind of wildlife. Okay, same as you have tropical, marine, tropical, you have segregated it, right? So similarly we have certain classification talking about the wildlife distribution in the world. Okay, in a certain kind of say for example there is something called neotropical. In this particular kind of climate, because the soil is such, because the plants are such, you will have, you know, animals of this particular kind. Okay, so that's the reason every animal cannot survive, you know, on everywhere in the world, unlike human, because humans are adaptive. Human have that intuition to adapt to the nature. You go to Rajasthan, you go to Sahara desert, there humans will, it is quite common for them to adapt to the environmental conditions. They'll stay normal. They'll not get dehydrated, and the temperature they got adapted, that's it simply. But unlike, you know, human animals cannot. Few animals will adapt for sure, but it will take a longer duration because human uses more technology rather than just adapting on his own self, isn't it? And over generations, if the so-called other, you know, people or other generations gets adapted to the same climate. So animals also, they are confined to certain areas, and if you want to migrate some animals to another location, they will not survive. For example, we have brought cheetahs, you know, to introduce into India. It cannot survive. Okay, fine. So we'll also talk about some aspects related to how the climate change and the human intuition. What are the anthropogenic reasons for the deduction of plant life and animal life? That's a very last topic which we'll discuss. Okay, so that's about biogeography. So firstly, like any other chapter, we'll first draw a quick diagram of what are the things that we'll be discussing. Of course, there will be again some additional things within which you need to include later. Okay, so first we will be talking about soil and its characteristics. Or characteristics and structure. Okay, we'll talk about soils, its characteristics, texture, very basic part. Okay, because soil is called as the living skin of the earth. Okay, soil also, you know, gets regenerated. It will also, you know, gets into a fertile stage if certain conditions were, you know, satisfying. It will turn into a barren land, it can turn into a desert, it can turn into a soil which will support certain kind of crops. So we call it as soil, the living skin of the earth. So we'll start from the very basic soil and then we'll connect all the other things. You know, what soil, you know, supports what kind of crops. If such crops are present, what kind of wildlife is there. So that's the reason we'll start with the soils. Under soils, we need to talk about the soil genesis, or you can also call it as soil formation process. Like why a certain kind of soil is formed. Why do we have different soils in different parts of the world? So for that to understand, we need to know about soil genesis, how they are formed and all. Okay. And next to that, we'll talk about soil profile. Like we humans will have a profile, that what are the degrees that you have done, what are the habits that you have, everything, you know, about what kind of characteristics that you possess. Similarly, we have something called soil profile, like how are the layers of soil distributed, what are its names, what are their functions. If you go to a construction area where they'll be digging the soil for, forming the, what do you say, that base, isn't it? When they were forming the bases things, they'll dig the soil. You go there and watch, you'll observe different, colors within the soil layer itself. Some will be darker, some will be lighter. Okay. So, understanding soil profile will let you know what are the things that were happening underneath. So, that is soil profile. Okay. After understanding the soil profile, then we will segregate different types of soil in the world or in the country. How many types of soil? If a certain profile is existing, it is called as some X soil. If a certain profile is existing, Y soil. Why do we need to know all these things? Because if you understand what nutrients were present in a soil, you will understand what crop can be grown. So why only coconut cultivation in Kerala? Why cashews are cultivated in certain regions? Why rice is dominant in certain areas? Why ragi, jowar, bajra? Okay, why wheat is cultivated there? Hope you all knew the climatic reasons for it, rainfall. Now we'll understand, apart from rainfall, soil is also a factor over there. Okay, always one single factor doesn't deter anything in geography. Any single environmental condition is determined by various aspects. One is land, the other is the tectonic activity, the geography of that land, whether it's a plain, plateau, etc. The other is your climate, and now we'll talk about some more detailed specific thing, that is soil. So that's the reason we'll know about types of soil. Within that itself we'll understand what type of soil supports what kind of crops. Then, now we understood the types of soil, we need to talk about distribution of the soil. Like for example, we have some 6-7 varieties of soil. Where are these soil present? Are they present near Deccan Plateau or in the coastal areas or in the Himalayan foothills or in the northern plains, where they are present? So distribution of soils we'll understand. Okay, so distribution of soils is the other thing that we'll learn. Now apart from that, this is the very core topics that we discuss in biogeography. Now next to this, the connective topics are smaller topics like social forestry. You can add it there, social forestry. So you can just, distribution of soil and plants and wildlife, write it like that. All the things, and we'll talk some other, other aspects related to it. Just write other aspects which include social forestry, agroforestry, what is soil erosion, soil degradation, how to conserve the soil. Hope you all knew all these things earlier as well. Soil will erode if it is not managed well. So you will have shelter farming, shelter beds, terrace farming. Okay, you will plant some trees so that trees will hold the soil. Okay, so that the nutrients of the soil cannot be washed off. So causes of soil erosion, that to prevent soil erosion, what steps? These are the other simpler concepts. Getting it? Agroforestry, social forestry, those things we'll be discussing. Okay, so that's all about the chapter biogeography.